Hi, I'm Steve Clemons, and I have a question. Where is the ceasing of fire in the Lebanon-Israel ceasefire? Let's get to the bottom line. It's the third deal to end the fighting along the border between Lebanon and Israel in less than 2 years, all of which have failed, after Iran made it clear to the White House that Israel's assault on Lebanon was a red line for them. U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu crazy, and he demanded a resolution. Well, then 2 days later, delegations from Lebanon's government and Israel meet in Washington, D.C., and they announced a new ceasefire agreement. But it didn't call for Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon. Israel, which has now killed more than 3,000 Lebanese people in the past 100 days, displaced 20% of the population, and has destroyed entire towns and villages in southern Lebanon, still says it wants to destroy Hezbollah, which is not a party to these negotiations. So where does Lebanon go from here? And what does it mean for American diplomacy as it tries to end the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran? Today we're talking with Imad Harb, Senior Fellow at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, former professor of Middle East Studies at Georgetown University, and he's co-author of The Arab World Beyond Conflict. Imad, thank you so much for joining us, and for joining us from Lebanon, where you are right now, because we're talking about Lebanon. Lebanon is in the news. In fact, I want to play a clip from President Trump. Let's listen.
That's been like a little bit of a different world, but it's interconnected with Iran. And it would be really nice if Lebanon could have some peace. Lebanon's been under attack for so many years and always like an underdog. And it would be really nice if it could end.
You know, it doesn't exactly sound like a vote of confidence in the situation. How are you seeing it right now, Imad?
Well, thanks for having me on. I wish that the president's actions are where his words are. I wish that he would pressure the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu to stop the killing, stop the invasion, stop the bombing of Lebanon. It's a great sentiment. I really appreciate that he feels for Lebanon, but at the same time, he's not really doing very much to help Lebanon from in this crisis.
You know, we did get a leak a few days ago that in an exchange between President Trump and Netanyahu, he called Netanyahu, quote unquote, crazy. And the report was that the president was highly angry. Do you believe that report, or is that set up to basically bolster the perception that Trump is independent of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu? Or is this designed in part to bolster Netanyahu's views that he's just continuing to go on with his campaign? Or do you think it was authentic and real?
But, I'm sorry to say it, but, is there any difference? Is there a difference if it were a leak of an authentic thing or just simply a leak because he wanted to look better for the Lebanese at least and for the Arab world? It really doesn't matter. I reaffirm what I said earlier that, whatever he does with Netanyahu, he's not doing what's required. He's not really forcing the Israeli government to stop. The Israeli government apparently wants to, and Netanyahu himself personally, wants to continue with the war on Lebanon because he has failed to really make the change that he wanted in the Iranian regime. So he's taken it out on Lebanon. Of course, he says that he's trying to get rid of Hezbollah and Hezbollah's weapons and all this stuff. But the Israeli aggression against Lebanon existed way before Hezbollah was created. The Israelis have been attacking Lebanon since the 1950s. So all of this is just simply political theater. I'm afraid that the Lebanese are not necessarily buying it very much, although there are a lot of Lebanese who believe that the United States wants to do something good for Lebanon regarding the Israeli invasion today. But actions don't speak for what the Lebanese really want the United States to do for them.
Imad, how can Lebanon and the government of Lebanon actually be negotiating at all with Israel if Hezbollah is not in the picture?
Well, guess what? This is the $200 billion kind of question to be answered. But the Hezbollah issue is both negative and positive. Negatively speaking, Hezbollah should not really take Lebanese foreign policy the way it wants to take it. Lebanon is a state. Lebanon should decide its own state foreign policy. But Hezbollah has usurped that, and Hezbollah seems to, because it is armed, obviously it does whatever it wants to do. Now, President Trump has this hope that the Lebanese government will one day be able to corral Hezbollah, to really rid it of its weapons, to try to have an independent position, foreign policy, independent of Hezbollah's policies. But I'm afraid that is a tall order. The Lebanese government is unable to basically disarm Hezbollah and form its foreign policy. But at the same time, and not only physically speaking, politically speaking, disarming Hezbollah by the Lebanese government means civil war in Lebanon. Really, I mean, this is not just the exaggeration. It is actually the reality of it. On the other hand, Hezbollah has to make itself look like it is part of the Lebanese political system. It is part of the Lebanese political culture, that is environment, and consider that other people in Lebanon do have different opinions about how to deal with negotiations with Israel, how to deal with how the United States really helps them. Hezbollah is being a little too unaccommodating. At the same time, some people, especially Hezbollah people, say they are justified in not being really too accommodating because Israel is doing what Israel is doing. Mind you, I mean, I want to just point this out that almost 6 decades ago, on June 5th, 1967, Israel occupied the lands, the rest of Palestine, and the lands of Israel, Jordan, and of Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. Today, Israel is doing the same thing with Lebanese territory and also more Syrian territory. So when we talk about Hezbollah, we're talking about the history on which Hezbollah depends to tell the world, to say to the Lebanese, to tell the world that, hey, look what Israel is doing. What do you expect me to do? It is trying to occupy Lebanon and at least the southern part of it. It has forced the evacuation of hundreds and hundreds of villages and towns in the south. More than 1 million people have been displaced. And Israel is not stopping. So when we talk about Hezbollah, yes, Hezbollah has faults, but at the same time, Hezbollah also has justifications. If Israel doesn't do what Israel wants to do, then Hezbollah may be in a better position to try to accommodate what the Lebanese government wants.
I just want to read something to you. It's the joint statement of the United States of America, the Republic of Lebanon, and the State of Israel on the latest high-level trilateral meeting. And in this, it basically institutes a ceasefire dependent on Hezbollah not firing on Israel, et cetera, But from the moment this was done, the bombing continued. So was there ever a ceasefire in the ceasefire?
I mean, it's a great question. The thing you should ask it to the American authorities, to the Trump administration. I really do not know what they're talking, how they look at things. We're talking about Israel does not want a ceasefire with Lebanon. Israel does not want to stop the war on Lebanon. It's not because only Hezbollah. As far as I'm concerned, Hezbollah is only a justification, an excuse for Israel's further bombing and further killing of non-Israelis, to tell you the truth. And Israel has plans for South Lebanon. Israel has had these plans for South Lebanon since the early 1950s, when main people, army people, Moshe Dayan and ministers in the Israeli government said that South Lebanon should be is under Israel's control, up to the Litani River. So, I really don't know how these negotiations at the Pentagon are going, but we are talking about a very weak party being forced by the United States to negotiate with a very, very powerful party and more powerful party, and we shouldn't assume that these negotiations are going to be producing anything positive on the Lebanese side, specifically because the Trump administration is not forcing the Israeli government to make the demands that it's supposed to make. It's supposed to withdraw from the south. It's supposed to withdraw from the strategic points that it has taken over. It is supposed to stop its aggression against the country. And, that's not what the Trump administration is interested in forcing Israel to do.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has very publicly said that all homes in all the villages in the border will be destroyed. It's such an overt statement of what he says, removing threats over the border in a sovereign other country, and it basically is committing to depopulating an area of land. And depopulation, which has been accused in the case of Gaza, is already being held out by many nations in the world, the International Criminal Court and others, as a crime against humanity. And I'm just interested in whether we are in that territory. And Lebanon is preparing to press its case on yet another depopulation campaign.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you say the words ethnic cleansing. Israel is interested in ethnically cleansing the South because Israel wants to resettle the South, just like it did with the West Bank. That's just, Israel is in control of 70% of the Gaza Strip. And so I do not think that Israel has any qualms about doing what it's doing. And the idea that negotiations are going to be fair for the Lebanese is, to me, is a silly idea. But it's the devastation. The devastation is amazing. You go to the south. It's the Israeli government has already announced that it wants to do with South Lebanon what it did in Gaza, and specifically what you see in Rafah and Khan Yunis and places like that is exactly what's happening in southern Lebanon today. Israel has pushed beyond the 9 or 10 kilometers that it wanted to as a security belt, they call it. It has reached the Litani River about 30 kilometers away. We're talking about a total tragedy that the United States and Israel are perpetrating against Lebanon. And nobody in the world, hardly anybody in the world, is saying anything about it. Yes, there are condemnations of this and that and the other thing, but no actual actions are being taken to really prevent this from happening. Israel is on a genocidal drive in Lebanon, and I don't know how else to describe it, really.
Imad, I want to add another dimension to this that for me is really interesting politically from a Washington perspective, and that is that the U.S. ambassador to Turkey, Tom Barrack, and I want our audience to understand, Tom Barrack is not just a U.S. ambassador. He is a friend of Donald Trump. He is a powerful ambassador, but I want to read you to something that I think is important. He says, we need a path with Hezbollah, and the path has to be not killing Hezbollah. He also said, after decades in the region, you cannot eliminate an embedded militia solely by kinetic means. Pure mowing the lawn has never worked. And I'm just interested in how the region is reading that dimple in this story.
The region is looking at this as this is an administration that has no head. Or this is an administration that has no foreign policy. And that is very, very true. The United States has no foreign policy in the Middle East. I doubt that it has any foreign policy regarding Europe or the Ukraine war. But this is an administration that is staffed by the president's friends and family. And these people do not know very much about the issues at hand here. Tom Barrack is a personal friend. He is a financier. He is whatever. By the way, the president pardoned him for something he did before. You talk about Steve Witkoff. You talk about Jared Kushner. You talk about Michael Issa, who is the American ambassador in Beirut. Yes, he is of Lebanese origin. Tom Barrack is of Lebanese origin. But these people are business people. They do not understand the complexities of the trouble that the Middle East has, the troubles that the Middle East has. All they do is they have fealty to Donald Trump. And but at the same time, I hate to say that about my president, but Donald Trump does not know very much about the Middle East or anything else. So he appoints these people to try to see if they can find deals. It's not easy to find deals, and it's not easy to find deals quickly. And these people are looking for a way out of a lot of crises they put themselves in. Look at the Iran war. I mean, look at this war they got us into in Iran. So Tom Barrack can say this, but tomorrow, mind you, tomorrow, very, very tomorrow, he might come out with something totally different. Because these people are shooting from the hip. They're just saying whatever they feel like saying. Tom Barrack tomorrow morning may say, well, no, I didn't mean that Hezbollah cannot be extricated from the Lebanese political scene because maybe the president gave him a call or something like that. So this is the crux of the problem. The crux of the problem is an administration that does not necessarily know what it wants to do, does not necessarily know the issues and or how to deal with it, does not have a diplomatic track. These are not diplomats. Diplomacy has a lot of deeper meanings, deeper practices, and these people are not that. So this is why we have so many crises. This is why no crises are being resolved, including the Israel invasion of Lebanon.
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has blasted Iran for trying to position Lebanon as a bargaining chip over the U.S.-Iran negotiations that have now been suspended for a moment. But it raises the question about the long-term direction with Hezbollah and Israel. And if Barrack is right, that you just can't mow down an embedded movement like Hezbollah, is there a scenario from your knowledge and perspective as a strategist who looks at the broader Middle East where a new chapter in this story may be, the Israel-Hezbollah stuff goes on, it's a tragedy for southern Lebanon, but essentially Iran detaches and Iran and the United States do a deal? Do you think there's a chance that Iran basically walks away from the Hezbollah situation, decouples it, and does a deal with the United States?
Okay, I'd like to point out one thing. Hezbollah is not Iran, and Iran is not Hezbollah. Yes, Hezbollah is part of an Iranian strategy, maybe part of an Iranian strategy to do this or that or the other thing in the Middle East. But Hezbollah is a political party, an armed political party in Lebanon. Hezbollah does not necessarily listen to the Iranians all the time. Yes, they do get some money from Iran. They get weapons from Iran. Iran really protects them and all this stuff because they believe in the Iranian political system and the Iranian revolution. But Joseph Aoun said what he said because for two reasons. One thing is he is the president of an independent republic. He does not want another republic, another country to be deciding his foreign policy, and he's right. But at the same time, the second reason is he wants to send a message to Hezbollah that no matter how much we resist negotiating over having a ceasefire, ending the Israeli occupation, ending what's going on today, without talking to the Americans. So Joseph Aoun is a man caught in a very, very difficult situation. He is the president of all of Lebanon. There are a lot of pressures on him, not only Hezbollah, all other political. Hezbollah, by the way, Hezbollah today is, from a political point of view, represents a minority in Lebanon. I mean, all political parties in Lebanon want this war to end, and all political parties criticize Hezbollah for starting this war because they bombed it when Israel assassinated the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. So Hezbollah is not a representative of Lebanon. Neither should Iran negotiate. And he is right. The president is right. Iran should not negotiate on behalf of Lebanon for a ceasefire in Lebanon. But Iran is trying. Iran is also a state that's trying to use all its assets. It has the assets. At least it's considered to have the asset of Hezbollah. So it pushes for a ceasefire in Lebanon because it knows that if it totally abandons Hezbollah, Hezbollah may change its mind. So at the same time, it would rather have a sticky point with Hezbollah, and it uses Hezbollah as a bargaining chip. But the president is right about telling Iran to really lay off. It's Lebanon's foreign policy is Lebanon's foreign policy, nobody else's.
Imad, just real quickly to wrap this up, and it's a fascinating conversation, important conversation, but do you fear that Lebanon could be treated in a U.S. brokered deal kind of like the Palestinian Authority, where it's rewarded or punished on the basis of how much security it delivers to Israel?
Of course, yes. The more all the Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, the more they are more friendly with Israel, the better it is for the United States and for Israel, obviously. So Lebanon they would think that Lebanon would do well to be a police force for Israeli security, just like the Palestinian Authority is today in the West Bank. Yes, definitely. I doubt, however, that the Lebanese are ready to do that. They're not ready to do that, and neither is Hezbollah nor other political factions. Political factions in Lebanon do not want a totally triumphant Israel and triumphant over Lebanon. That is, they are nationalists. They do not want the Israeli occupation to continue. And but yes, the United States may want Lebanon to become a gendarme for Israeli security, but that ain't gonna happen.
So what do you see as the next chapter in this story?
I don't know these negotiations. I just don't trust the negotiations because they may bring something that the Lebanese don't have consensus on. And definitely, on the other hand, many Lebanese today are telling me, I talk to a lot of people here, and they're saying, well, so what's wrong with having peace with Israel? But if they have peace with Israel, if that peace is going to be any warmer than the peace between Jordan and Israel or Egypt and Israel, I'll really be very, very surprised. It's not going to be a warm peace. And Israel is really, excuse the expression, barking up the wrong tree if it wants to have a very warm relationship with Lebanon, because everybody in Lebanon knows what Israel is. Everybody knows that Israel is a settler, colonialist society and state, and is interested only in occupying southern Lebanese areas, and nobody wants that to happen.
Well, Imad Harb, Senior Fellow at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what's the bottom line? President Trump's penchant for fast one-page deals just isn't working. Does anybody remember the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit? Well, that was less than 8 months ago, and the region just hasn't seen much peace since then. We've got a serious problem when the world's largest power either can't or won't take reality into consideration. And it's even worse when Washington pushes lopsided deals that don't benefit all sides, or it sweeps the critical but annoying details under the carpet for future generations to deal with. Now, get serious here. Brute force and the imbalance of power may just work in Israel's favor for right now, but it will only prevent any chance for stability in the region, and not just on the Iran track. And that's the bottom line.